This is it. The last round of Phase 2 Swiss here at LAIC. My name is Ben Kiriakou, joined here by Matt Maynard, and we have made it all the way to the end of our Swiss. Just one more round before we get to find out who is in our asymmetrical top cut.
Yeah, it's a big round as well. Our two players that we are featuring in this round both at a 9-2 record. The winner of this round will move on to our top cut, and the loser will unfortunately not be making it to the next phase. Still a good run to get to 9-3, but both of these players will be desperately wanting to get to that top cut.
This is where it all really makes the difference. And the change from last season into this season is we have an asymmetrical top 8. So any of our trainers matching the record of our 8th place contestant player at the at LAIC will be making it into the asymmetrical top cut with a chance to make it all the way through the playoff bracket, but usually that's at X and 2, and if you get an X and 3 record or lower, then you're not going to be making it all the way. But you will probably, for the trainers that go X and 3, will have a nice lump of championship points, potential for maybe even a little bit of prize money to be taking home with them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Prize money going all the way down to top 32 at these international championships. So even some people who don't make it into our top cut will be walking away with, as you said, a little bit of pocket money to, I don't know, spend on something nice for Christmas, or maybe fund the next tournament run.
Well, maybe. Let's see. But it is all to play for here in this last round. And we have a fantastic match that we're going to be able to feature now. Lewis Markl versus Javier Señorena. And these are two players that are so consistent overall. Lewis, I feel like Lewis's name pops up in every event close to or in the top cut. Not just the fact that Lewis is playing a lot at the moment and going really around the circuit in a big way, but also doing it so consistently, usually with, as you can see there, the team of the moment. This is the build that's been so infamous in the second phase of Regulation Set H. Javier on the other side, using what won in the Las Vegas Regional Championships just last week, with their own spin on the composition, I'm sure. This Porygon 2, Ursa Luna, Incineroar, Amoonguss, Kilowattrel, and Golden Go composition.
Yeah, both of these teams are teams that have won regional championships, looking mostly unchanged. We've seen a few versions of the Emanuele Brigante team, the one that Lewis is running, with a couple of tweaks here and there, moveset changes on Ninetales. Sometimes you'll run different sets on the Sneasler, on the Ursaluna. This one looks like it's pretty much identical. Lewis saying, okay, I don't need to make any tweaks. I'm just going to play better. I'm just going to be good enough with the team as it is, that I'm going to make it this far.
And that is exactly how Lewis tends to seem to approach from the outside this match, just using the best team and trying to use it as well as they possibly can.
Yeah, exactly. He was, back in Regulation Set I, a big fan of the Calyrex Shadow Zamazenta teams. Very standard stuff, but he's just a good enough player, consistent enough player, that he can make those teams work for him so well. But Javier obviously not going to go down without a fight. There's a lot of options that Javier's got into Lewis's team, especially the Trick Room mode, being able to get around the speed that the Icy Wind Ninetales and the Acrobatics Unburdened Sneasler potentially would like to get set up.
Definitely. The Trick Room could be a big component of this matchup overall, especially since there's not many Pokemon that can resist a Guts Flame Orb boosted up Ursaluna Facade, and that's definitely the case on Lewis's team. Even if an Incineroar gets an Intimidate down onto it, the Headlong Rush can still get the KO onto that Pokemon. So there's options for both of these players. This is a matchup that both of these players will have a lot of experience playing up against similar compositions. So I'm kind of expecting both of these players to be fairly consistent and know exactly what their win conditions are in this particular matchup, not least if they've played it already across LAIC in the event so far. they'll be very, very well versed in what they need to do to claim victory here in this final round of Phase 2 Swiss.
Absolutely. One thing to note here is we see the Assault Vest on Javier Señorena's Incineroar. Something that a lot of Incineroars have been doing recently is taking off the safety goggles item, running instead Citrus Berry. We've seen Assault Vest. But Javier will be a little bit unhappy to see that there is, in fact, the safety goggles on Lewis's Incineroar. Another way to stop this Amoonguss from clicking Spore. Golden Go obviously immune thanks to its good as gold ability. Rillaboom immune thanks to its grass typing. Amoonguss might be pretty difficult to leverage well in this matchup, which is a shame because that Spore is really, really threatening under Trick Room.
Definitely very, very powerful. And safety goggles usually would be the reaction to Amoonguss in a metagame, but Amoonguss has been pretty low usage overall in Regulation Set H. And I think this is probably more of an adaptation to the Volcaronas that are coming around with Rage Powder and maybe a little bit of Sand Chip from Pokemon like Tyranitar. And yeah, at the same time, you get that safety from the Amoonguss, just in case this sort of composition comes back to rear its head, because this Porygon 2, Ursaluna, Incineroar, Golden Go, Amoonguss combination is nothing new. It was right from the start of the first Regulation Set H. The flying type Pokemon, the bird of choice, has changed. It used to be Flamigo. Hydreigons had a little bit of a run at that slot of the Kilowattrel, but Kilowattrel seems to be the one that has stuck the most and has mostly solved this team composition in its favour.
Yeah, the ability to threaten away Incineroars, which otherwise can be a bit of a nuisance for a team with Golden Go, the Intimidating your own Incineroar, the Amoonguss, that's very valuable. And the other thing is, it's just faster than Sneasler, which is the thing that a lot of Pokemon cannot say. So the other options you've seen in this team, like you mentioned, the Flamigo, the Vivian was a thing for a while. They're slower than a lot of key threats like Annihilate, like Final Gambit, Annihilate. Being faster than that for your Tailwind, etc. is very valuable because it opens up a mode where a lot of these teams have been moving towards running a lot of speed on the Ursaluna on these teams, potentially even maximum speed on the Ursaluna to really enable the Tailwind mode and also make sure that they outspeed most Incineroars, for example. So having a really fast Tailwind setter next to Golden Go and Ursaluna is very valuable.
Yeah, especially since then Ursaluna is kind of still slow. Even if you invest all of that training into speed, it's still not really that fast overall. So you still can, against faster teams, take advantage of the Trick Room mode with the Ursaluna, but just the ability to Tailwind and Headlong Rush a Golden Go, that can be absolutely key in many matchups, just removing that key threat so that Porygon 2 is able to set the Trick Room up, but also not just go down to 2+ make it rains. And I think that's a real nice bit of synergy there. A Kilowattrel as well does keep away and keep at bay those Incineroars that Ursaluna really doesn't like to play up against. And say, well, if you want to deal with the Ursaluna, you've got to intimidate it, or at least power control it. You've got to intimidate it. But if you intimidate it, well, Kilowattrel's saying hello with a 2+ special attack boost. And those Thunderbolt and Air Slash bits of damage really do rack up very quickly when the Kilowattrel's boosted.
Yeah, you see Kilowattrels when they get that boost, they're doing probably 60-70% to an Incineroar, which will put it in range of pretty much everything, especially if you're trying to soften it up for a Golden Go, for example. So Incineroar is one of those Pokemon that you'd really want to bring in front of Golden Go a lot of the time. But if you take a Thunderbolt, you're not taking up the follow-up Make It Rain, almost certainly, on account of, like, this Golden Go running Life Orb is going to be invested in Special Attack. The Kilowattrel obviously getting that +2 Thunderbolt off on the Incineroar. Incineroar's not going to like taking that double up.
No, not at all. And I think this is, contrasting with the Ursaluna Blood Moon on Lewis's side, that actually looks pretty consistent into most of Javier's team. Most of this build, especially with the Terra Electric, that's going to give him a lot of room to maneuver against all of the threats that Javier has on their side of the field. But equally, that's going to make it weak to Ursaluna. And so, yeah, it can definitely go both ways. Just to give you a little update, we're just there's some things going on the main floor at the moment for getting these players started and getting our signal over from LAIC in Brazil. We're sitting in the UK at the moment. The players are sitting in Brazil, and we've got some other things going on in Spain. So we're very worldwide on this stream, and we've done really well so far to bring all of the action. I'm sure the team is working very hard to bring us the game as quickly as physically possible.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it just happens. There's not really much you can do about it. Some video games don't work the way they're meant to, especially when, like you said, you're trying to transmit a stream from Brazil via a team in Spain through your casters in the UK. So yeah, the production team are doing a fantastic job of putting this all together. The fact that we even have this stream in the first place is, I think, so good for like some of the matches we've seen on this stream that haven't been on the main stream. Yeah, they've been fantastic. Like the last round, I was stressed off that game too. That was a crazy set. But yes, we're just having a slight delay getting this next match up and running, but we will have that for you as soon as we can.
So I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked you last time.
Yes.
Lead matchup. What do you reckon?
Okay, I think that Lewis can really lean on the Golden Go in this matchup. Because if you look at what's on Javier's side, Amoonguss can't do anything to it. Obviously, Ursaluna is a problem if they lead it next to the Kilowattrel, but you can shut that down, and you've also got the access to Terra Water. The big thing is it completely shuts down the Porygon 2, and we identified that Trick Room was potentially a big threat on Javier's team that Lewis maybe doesn't really want to deal with. He has ways of getting through it, of course, with the Incineroar, with the Ursaluna, but if Javier does go for that Trick Room mode, they're going to want to lead the Porygon 2, and Golden Go is a very nice punish for that. So the question then becomes, does Javier call that and not go for the Porygon 2 lead because they're worried about giving Lewis too much board position? We could also see potentially, I've run this team a fair bit, I'm a big fan of just leading Kilowattrel Ursaluna.
Yeah, it's pretty strong.
Saying, okay, if you lead wrong, what is that supposed to mean? If you lead wrong, you can just click Tailwind Earthquake, and good luck. Yeah. Was it big bear go bro? I think it's the way to describe that lead, isn't it? Kilowattrel can go for Tailwind. You can just go straight on the offensive if you're Ursaluna, which, 4 feet Ursaluna, it's got a lot of defensive capability as well, right? So it's not easy to just knock it out turn 1. So Kilowattrel can, we've seen it pretty regularly go for just Terra Ghost to avoid a fake out and just go on the offensive, start putting some damage on the board. Ursaluna can do just exactly the same. I think some of these Ursalunas that we see on this composition do run Terra Fairy, but this one is running Terra Ghost, and so we'll be able to avoid a fake out. Getting the confirmation. Hopefully, we are getting into this game very soon. The last little bits of setup happening out there on the main floor at LAIC. So keep on with us. We're going to have this game getting kicked off, and here it is. No sooner do we say it does it come in. Thank you very much, production. Thank you very much, all the staff that are there making that work. It is indeed the Kilowattrel and Ursaluna. You maybe. And the Rillaboom and Golden Go coming out for Lewis. Yeah, the Rillaboom is a really nice presence here to threaten this Ursaluna. Obviously, it's got the super effective Grass-type moves firing off into that Ursaluna with the Wood Hammer and the Grassy Glide. But importantly, on the first turn, Ursaluna's Facade is not doing very much damage, because without the burn from the Flame Orb, it's a 70 base power move. And Rillaboom doesn't really mind taking that, and it can obviously take the Ground-type moves pretty effectively. So now it becomes a case of how aggressive do you go with the Ursaluna? Because if you go for Tailwind Headlong Rush and hit a Protect or hit a Terra Water and you get hit by a Wood Hammer, that's still probably going to be enough to, if not KO the Ursaluna, at least put it in range of a Grassy Glide.
Okay, so Ursaluna going straight on the defensive, but also offensive with this Terra Ghost here, blocking any sort of fake outs. But the fake out does go into the Kilowattrel. Kilowattrel, is not known for taking hits particularly well. It is the combination of Shadow Ball and a critical hit fake out that is enough to pick it up. I'm not sure that critical hit made any difference whatsoever, but does waste somewhat the Terra Ghost onto this Ursaluna. But it does get a headlong rush down into the Golden Go. So I think the answer to how aggressive does Javier want to be on this turn one, the answer to that is kind of just yes. Going straight on the offensive with both Pokemon.
I think the crit on that Kilowatt Troll was enough to KO the second Kilowatt Troll that was hiding behind it. I don't think it needed that first one to get rid of the 1 Kilowatt Troll. But the main thing is, with this Kilowatt Troll down and the Ghost Terastallization on the Ursaluna, that's going to open up this Incineroar, which we're going to see coming in from Lewis Markl, getting the Intimidate down on the Ursaluna. And now, with the -1 defense drop on Ursaluna, the knockoff that might not have been threatening a KO beforehand is definitely threatening it now. And depending on how these two Pokemon are trained, the Ursaluna and the Incineroar, that's going to make a big difference regarding which one is faster here. Because if the Incineroar is faster than Ursaluna, then the Ursaluna is a little bit stuck. Because it's used its Terastallization, and it's just going to eat a knockoff. So I think that's a very, very good turn one from Lewis. Happy to trade his own Golden Go to stop the Kilowatt Troll from getting up a Tailwind. Obviously, there's risk if the Kilowatt Troll goes for a Terra Ghost. But if Kilowatt Troll goes Terra Ghost, that means that now the Ursaluna is weaker to the Rillaboom on Lewis's side. So I think he's happy with either outcome in that situation.
Javier, noticing that there's an Incineroar on the board and bringing in their own Incineroar, getting the Assault Vest knocked off, but probably not particularly relevant in this game because the Golden Go on Lewis's side has already been knocked out. And now where Lewis had the fake out pressure and a good amount of defensive capability going on, now Javier has the fake out pressure, bringing the Incineroar in, puts the pressure onto the Incineroar on Lewis's side so that the Golden Go has an opportunity to maybe get itself set up.
Yeah, we use the fake out coming out into the Incineroar, the one that is threatening the Golden Go the most. And we see the nasty plot coming out, some machinations from our Golden Go. Rillaboom is going to take a chance to attack here, though, going for the high horsepower, still getting a lot of damage down on the Golden Go in spite of the Intimidate, which maybe says that, firstly, this Golden Go does not have a large amount of investment in its defenses, and maybe this Rillaboom is trained to be very, very offensive.
Yeah, I think a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B going on there. But now that with the Golden Go set up, I think it's going to be really down to Javier to position their last Pokemon, or the Incineroar and Ursaluna, to be able to knock out this Incineroar so that the Make It Rains can just do what they do best and take some key KOs. I mean, the grassy terrain is kind of working against Lewis in this spot, because while it is increasing the amount of damage that the Rillaboom is doing, it also just means that the second high horsepower is unlikely to pick up the KO after that grassy terrain recovery.
Bear in mind, there is going to be Life Orb Chip, though, as soon as Golden Go does go for an attack, which is going to play into that. I think the high horsepower probably going to be enough to get it through that. We do see a knockoff coming out from the Incin into the Protect. Are we going to see a double up into the Golden Go? We're not. We see the high horsepower coming out into the Incin. And again, another big chunk of damage from this Rillaboom as it takes a U-turn and Incineroar repositions on Javier's side.
Oh, but this is dangerous, isn't it? Because the Ursaluna comes in after anything else happens. So a little bit of speed interaction going on there. The Incineroar was faster than the Incineroar on Javier's side. Was it faster than the Rillaboom?
I believe so. I believe we saw knockoff into Protect and then saw high horsepower into...
yes, we did. Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah. So this is a really speedy Incineroar, which could mean that the Ursaluna is outsped by it. But it also means that this Ursaluna with a max speed might be faster than this Rillaboom, and now that it's gone for its Terra Fire, a high horsepower could be enough to pick up the KO.
I think Ursaluna would have to be exceptionally fast at the detriment of its own attack stat to outspeed a Rillaboom, unless Lewis is running some very strange Rillaboom that is slower than the default. So it looks likely that Ursaluna is being outsped by both of the Pokemon on Lewis's side, which is obviously very, very good information for Lewis to have, and it really explains why he was so willing to go so aggressive into that Tailwind setter on turn one, knowing that the speed control would be in his favor for the rest of the game.
Incineroar coming in and getting another Intimidate down onto Incineroar and Rillaboom on Lewis's side. So trying to make sure that even if Lewis swings down into the Ursaluna, that it's not going to be he's not going to be picking up any KOs on this turn. But as it stands, both targets go into the Incineroar. Now Incineroar on Lewis's side takes a big headlong rush down into it, and it's an Intimidator that is being knocked out. More importantly, it's the knockoff damage dealer that has been knocked out on Lewis's side of the field. So both the ghost type damage from Shadow Ball from Golden Go has been knocked out. Now the knockoff has been knocked out. This Terror Ghost Ursaluna looks like it's in a much better spot. But also that locked to 2 minus Rillaboom down onto the field.
Without Grassy Terrain as well. The Grassy Terrain has just expired. We do see the Ursaluna coming in from Lewis. But that last turn from Javier was exceptionally well played. The Golden Go had that Nasty Plot boost. It seemed unlikely that Javier wanted to switch out of those Nasty Plot boosts, but he decided, I don't actually need them here. I get more value out of getting an Intimidate down, making sure my Ursaluna stays safe, and he does end up going for the high horsepower, sorry, the Headlong Rush into the opposing Incineroar. And like you said, this now removes any potential pivots from Lewis, and look how little damage that is doing. Even with the 2 Headlong Rush drops on the Ursaluna, the 2 Intimidate drops on the Rillaboom, enough to stop it doing any damage, as Rillaboom goes down to another Headlong Rush from this Ursaluna, and that is going to be another KO for Javier.
Yeah, positioning the Fake Out perfectly there to come in and play that sort of consistent turn. No reason, especially only 1 Headlong Rush drop from this Ursaluna. Did one, switched out, switched back in, did another one, and yeah, exactly. So it's effectively a -1 Rillaboom, or an intimidated Rillaboom Headlong Rush, so to speak, into the Ursaluna, which is Terror Ghost and not weak to the Woodhammer, meaning that it's able to take that attack. Now Incineroar gets to go for a knockoff, which is faster than Ursaluna on Lewis's side of the field. Really good information for both of these trainers, that both of these Incineroar have been trained to be very, very speedy.
Yeah, interesting as well to see that Lewis's Ursaluna is faster than Javier's. Which, again, we saw a similar thing last set, where you expect these leftovers Ursalunas to be trained to be a little bit slower, maybe a bit bulkier, just designed to survive on the field for as long as possible. So that maybe indicates that either that is trained exceptionally fast, or maybe the Ursaluna on Javier's side is, in fact, less fast than a lot of them tend to run on these teams. So that's, like you said, very good information for both players. Yeah,
I think, Blood Moon Ursaluna is naturally just that little bit faster than regular Ursaluna. Right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so if they're both trained to be their max, but it could be all of those things are true. They are both trained, both Ursalunas are trained to be as fast as they physically can be while maintaining the boost in their other stats. But then, if that's the case, Ursaluna Blood Moon would be very slightly faster than the 4 feet. Yeah, 2 feet, 4 feet. Let's get that back into the mix. 4 feet Ursaluna would be a little bit less speedy in that case.
Yeah, it's interesting to see though that the Incineroars were both faster than both of the Ursalunas, by the looks of things, because we saw some speed interactions there, which seems counterintuitive on a team that likes to run Trick Room. But again, I think with Kilowattrel being the adaptation on these Porygon 2 Ursaluna teams, they're leaning a lot more into the fast mode, being a lot less dependent on that Trick Room. And so running that much speed can be very, very valuable. And especially on Incineroar, strangely, running it faster can be more beneficial for the Trick Room mode, because what it means is that turn 1, you can click Fake Out into something, Trick Room with your Porygon 2.
Get the Fake Out, yeah.
And then next turn, you win the Fake Out war on turn 1, and then next turn, when you have your Trick Room up, you have a slower parting shot. So your parting shot's more likely to move last.
Which means that you can reposition
more safely, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You can reposition into your Trick Room attackers without actually having them take a big wallop to the face in the process. Okay, thinking about this game too, really tight between both of these two trainers. I'm not sure whether or not we're going to see too much adjustment from either of them, because their game plans were really solid, but I think it did come down to the turns in the moment. Lewis got a couple of those early turns right, but Javier managed to get a few in the late game. Now we're seeing you know what? I'm going to stop speaking, because we're seeing a complete switch up for both of our trainers, Ninetales and Ursaluna, and Kilowattrel and Incineroar.
Interestingly, this Ninetales on lead from Lewis is not the variant that runs Aurora Veil. So you'd think maybe you're just trying to set up an Aurora Veil so you can stall out a Tailwind or a Trick Room. Instead, I think it's probably just opting to go for big damage immediately. You don't really want to click Icy Wind in front of a Kilowattrel, because obviously if you are going to give it that competitive boost, and if it sets up Tailwind, it's still going to be faster than you. But these Blizzards now are looking very, very scary in front of this Kilowattrel. Lewis, I think, maybe going for a game plan where he wants to still remove the Kilowattrel as early as possible, but doesn't want to commit as much to it. Because that turn one play he made last game, if we'd seen a Terra Ghost on Kilowattrel, that would have been a very, very bad start.
Blizzard kicking things off here from the Ninetales, getting a freeze
Good
on
start.
the Incineroar. Good start there, but if the Incineroar is going for a Flare Blitz... Oh, is Flare Blitz one of the ones that doesn't fall? Right,
Flare Blitz does fall, it didn't go for Flare Blitz.
Didn't go for a Flare Blitz, probably a knockoff then from the Incineroar, as the Incineroar takes a Blood Moon and takes a big old chunk of damage. But this is one of the things that if you go for Blizzard, turn after turn after turn, eventually you are going to get those freezes.
Yeah, and there's now the threat of a combination of Icy Wind and Earth Power into this Golden Go. We've seen this Ursaluna on Lewis's side is pretty fast, so there's a very good chance that it will outspeed this Golden Go if there is an Icy Wind drop. It looks like we did go for an Icy Wind there, but we see the Flare Blitz thawing the Incineroar out, immediately getting that big Flare Blitz damage down into the Ursaluna. Ursaluna is about to fire off an Earth Power, this time into the Incineroar, which does go down early.
And it was the Incineroar that evaded the Icy Wind, so that's why the Flare Blitz was even possible in that spot. The Icy Wind did not connect with the Incineroar and drop its speed down. So Lewis in a great spot now. The freeze allowed him to take an early Pokemon advantage, and the Icy Winds are really capable of stacking up here. But now that the Kilowattrel comes in, it's able to, if Javier wants to, go for its speed control of its own, get that Golden Go faster than both the Ninetales and the Ursaluna, and start dishing out some damage.
And another interesting play you have potentially here is there is the threat of maybe just going Icy Wind and Blood Moon into the Kilowattrel, slowing the Golden Go down, and then KOing the Kilowattrel before it can actually make use of those boosts. So you can protect the Kilowattrel here, which looks like Javier is considering doing, but then that opens up the option of going Icy Wind and just Earth Powering into the Golden Go again. So it's a lot of moving parts this turn. We'll have to see what our players lock into. It looks like that is an Icy Wind from the Ninetales. Yeah. Has Lewis called this correctly?
Okay, so that's going to hit into both targets. Kilowattrel obviously protecting itself this time round. Couldn't have been an Icy Wind because there was no speed drops going on there, but Make It Rain survived by the Ursaluna as well. So Golden Go taking a little bit of chip damage, and it looks like, yeah, there it is, the Earth Power into the Golden Go. So Lewis has trained the Pokemon very, very well to be able to take these big, big hits.
Yeah, that Flare Blitz damage from the Incineroar after it thawed out after dodging the Icy Wind could have been very, very meaningful there, but the Ursaluna hanging on with just a sliver, and now it's down to the last two Pokemon on Javier's side, but the last two Pokemon are very, very threatening because both of these front Pokemon are in range of an Earthquake.
Yes.
And there could be a Tailwind going up now. And
Ursaluna will outspeed, will it?
What was that, sorry?
Ursaluna will outspeed this Ninetales if the Tailwind goes up from the Kilowattrel.
Almost certainly, given what we've seen so far. So there is the threat of Tailwind and Earthquake now. There is probably Intimidate in the back, maybe a Rillaboom as well, but Javier does still have the Terra Ghost available to him to make the most of this.
Okay, so let's see how this turn plays out. I think it is looking like we've locked in on Javier's side the Tailwind and Earthquake play, but there is always that Rillaboom to suppress the damage. Grassy Terrain reduces by half the damage that Earthquake is doing. I don't think that's going to be enough quite to allow this Blood Moon Ursaluna to hang on this turn, but because it's going for a Protect with a Leftovers and Grassy Terrain recovery, we're starting to get into a spot where Javier has to commit single target attacks to knock out Lewis's Pokemon. And if you're only attacking one Pokemon at a time, that means that at least one of the Pokemon on the other side of the field can start dishing out some damage of its own.
Sorry, this is nothing to do with the actual gameplay itself. I'm just enjoying watching Ursaluna's face bobbing up and down trying to follow this Kilowattrel. But we have an interesting position now.
Now I can't unsee
it. I've ruined the game for everyone at home. But we do have two Terra Ghosts available on Javier's side. It becomes a call on where this Rillaboom's Fake Out is going to go, because if you call the Fake Out into the Kilowattrel correctly, you can go for an Air Slash into the Ursaluna and Facade into Rillaboom and pick up a double KO. But if you make that call and the fake out goes into the Ursaluna, equally that's not a great spot for you, because now the Incineroar can come in, you can start stalling out. Tailwind turns. So this does come down to a pretty big call, I think, from Javier. Can he get it correct which way this fake out is going to go?
Because, yeah, if even if the fake out is going to be coming in the first place, I think that's also another consideration that we have to think about in this spot. The Rillaboom, if it's not knocked out straight away from a facade, or certainly not from an air slash, and doesn't get flinched, a Wood Hammer could be pretty detrimental into the Ursaluna. But can Lewis risk that, especially after the last game where the Ursaluna Terra ghosted away from that weakness to grass?
We do see a Grassy Glide instead coming out from this Rillaboom, calling the Terra Ghost. Air Slash not enough with the Terra Electric to pick up the Ursaluna. We do see the facade come out now. Rillaboom is probably going to go down to this. Do we see a flinch? This could be incredibly, incredibly detrimental. But we don't see the flinch. It is the Blood Moon coming out. Kilowattrel is going to go down, and now it is a 3v1. 3 Pokemon, including an Incineroar and a Ninetales, against just this Ursaluna. Ursaluna no longer has access to its Terra Ghost, can't get around fake outs. Lewis looking primed and ready to stall out this last few turns of Tailwind. Ursaluna, once that Tailwind goes down, we've already seen that it is slower than all 3 remaining Pokemon on Lewis's side. So Lewis looks like he's got this pretty locked in at this point.
Okay, so there is the confirmation of the last Pokemon, the confirmation that Incineroar is indeed in the back. I really like the way that Lewis approached that turn, where Fake Out was a potential, but actually Grassy Glide is nearly as good as Fake Out for all intents and purposes, because it guarantees that the Focus Sash is broken onto the Kilowattrel. It's unlikely that Javier would lock into an Earthquake in that spot in front of a Rillaboom and an Ursaluna. So the Terra Electric, really nice there to cover all bases from Lewis's side, other than the potential of a flinch with an Air Slash. With the Fake Out coming into the Ursaluna, the Protect on the Ursaluna, now this is part of that waiting game that you were just mentioning there, Matt. And with the last turn of Tailwind, actually there's a potential for some big KOs here, but only if Lewis doesn't play defensively on this turn.
Yeah, the thing is that this Ursaluna, it's at -1, and as you said, it's kind of reduced to only clicking single target moves now, because this grassy terrain is going to weaken that Earthquake. Which means I think you've got a pretty reasonable play here of just going for a parting shot with the Incineroar and, yeah, protecting the Ursaluna, getting through the last turn of Tailwind, and then getting your Ninetales onto the field completely safely without having to worry about it taking a hit from this Ursaluna. Here comes the Earthquake.
The Earthquake.
Not too much damage on the Incineroar, like we said, at -1 with that drop. Instead of the parting shot, we just see a knockoff. Going for free damage on the Ursaluna, why not? Might as well take the damage while you have the opportunity to, and I believe that is Tailwind over now.
Yes, it is Tailwind going to be expiring at the end of this turn. I actually quite like the Earthquake there, because grassy terrain isn't going to stay on the field forever. And if the Ninetales switches in, it's only at 1 HP, it's gone down to its Focus Sash. So you're going to be definitely knocking that out on the switch in. But it also puts the Incineroar in range of an Earthquake a little bit later on. No Protects coming out from this Ursaluna. The Flare Blitz going down into it. It's looking like it's going to be in range, certainly, of a Blood Moon coming out from this Ursaluna. 2 feet better than 4 feet. Lewis taking the game.
It's game 2. We're going to a game 3. This is really down to the wire. It's such an important set as well. A lot of pressure on these players now. Winning in for Top Cut, going to game 3. And it was a very, very well played set from Lewis. I like the adaptation to change up the leads. I think Ninetales was an interesting play just because of the threat of Blizzard and the speed stat that it has. I think it would be interesting to see how that game would play out if we didn't see that freeze on the Incineroar early, because obviously it's not going to be doing any massive damage with anything like that, but a parting shot off of that Ursaluna on turn 1 could have been pretty crucial. So it's one of those situations where you wonder if Lewis will go, okay, well, I maybe needed that freeze, otherwise that ball position is not great for me, or does he go the opposite way and say, I didn't need that, I'm happy with how I led, I'm happy to just do the same thing again? Or the third option, which is, I'm happy with how I led, but I think my opponent's going to lead something different, so I'm going to lead something different.
Yes. I think there's like lots of different options for these two trainers, and I think they've had 2 games to feel out the strategies that they want to go for, and see exactly how either player is going to react to this very much standard set of compositions that both trainers are running. And now it's the guesswork is like the mind games that are at play between the two of them. How are they going to adapt in game 3? Because effectively this is it. One game stands between these two players and making our asymmetrical top cut. Everything is on the line between the two of them, and they've both shown, this is what I love about going into a game 3, they've both shown that they have what it takes to win this match, and who is going to make the turn in the moment.
Absolutely. We've seen Javier bring the same 4 Pokemon both times as well, is interesting to note. Obviously there was a bit of a mix-up from Lewis with the Ninetales, but we are going to see our leads now. We're back to the Rillaboom and Golden Go lead from Lewis, and Kilowattrel Incineroar again from Javier. He lost the last game, but was happy enough with his leads that he's willing to go for it again. And this Incineroar is now very well positioned in front of an intimidated Rillaboom and a Golden Go.
Definitely. I think I don't think if you're Javier, you necessarily need to commit that terrestrialization early, but there is a call to be made. Lewis has been very clear that he wants to knock out the Kilowattrel as quickly as physically possible. There is what looks like a grassy glide into that slot, followed by a Make It Rain. So calling out that Javier would go for the Terra Ghost in that spot, but Javier
that was just the Make It Rain. Yeah, we've got a Wood Hammer coming out now.
So the Wood Hammer coming out into the Incineroar. Yeah, okay, completely misread that early turn, but a knockoff, super effective into this Golden Go, enough to pick up the KO. The Assault Vest affording the Incineroar the ability to train itself to be a little bit more offensively capable, getting a key KO on turn 1.
That's a very interesting play from Lewis, going for those 2 resisted moves into the Incineroar, because I don't think there's really any reason to call a terrestrialization there, so I guess maybe calling a switch into the Ursaluna. It's very possible that play that turn could have just been the Incineroar going for a U-turn into Ursaluna, in which case that Wood Hammer would have done a lot of damage. But Javier holding his ground, protecting the Kilowattrel, doesn't get any value out of it that turn, but keeps his Sash intact and keeps the threat of Tailwind up for later in the match. And now, again, this Incineroar is in a very, very threatening position.
Tailwind going up from the Kilowattrel and getting that speed boost. If the Incineroar needed any more speed boost to its name, Knockoff taking away the leftovers from Lewis's Ursaluna, so that's not going to be able to recover quite so much HP, and that was a high horsepower and an earth power into the Kilowattrel slot, calling the switch out. So I love this. Lewis is taking the strategies that he's used in game 1 and switching them about, saying like, Javier is going to expect me to double target into this Kilowattrel, so I expect it to switch out. Can I punish that switch in? And Javier is just like, nah,
staying in. Yeah, it's interesting. We were kind of talking about this in a previous game as well, where it becomes, after a certain number of layers of reads, the obvious play becomes the really smart one as well. And in this case, the obvious play from Javier is just click Tailwind, click Flare Blitz, or Knockoff. It seems fine. And Lewis, I think maybe these first couple of turns feels like he's been trying to play way too aggressive, to the point where the risk reward has been very skewed against him. And he's seemingly lost a lot of ground for it here.
Well, now these Rillaboom and Kilowattrel are trading blows here. The Air Slash doing about 50%. The Flare Blitz doing a good amount of damage to the Blood Moon Ursaluna as well. But now finally this Kilowattrel has been targeted down from Lewis's side of the field. So I feel like Javier is getting a better and better board position here, spreading out the damage. Would not be surprised at all to see Golden Go in the back there to be able to put some pressure down. But equally, Ursaluna does exactly the same job. And this is the opportunity, I think, for Javier to start getting the Ursaluna set up with its Flame Orb.
Yeah, this position very, very strong. And we see, I think Javier is just going for a double up into that Rillaboom slot there with a Headlong Rush, with a Headlong Rush and a Flare Blitz, saying, if you don't Terra, my Incineroar KOs you. If you do Terra, my Ursaluna KOs you. If you switch into Incineroar, my Ursaluna probably still KOs you. And we are going to see that Rillaboom switching out, but it looks like this play might be covered by Javier.
Okay, so here it is, the Incineroar coming in. So the same 4 Pokemon for Lewis in Game 3 of this set. Last round of Phase 2 Swiss here at LAIC. And it's the Terastallization committed on Javier's Ursaluna. That's going to protect it from taking super effective damage from a Grassy Glide, from a Wood Hammer. And not going to protect it from Blood Moons or Earth Powers at all from Ursaluna on the other side of the board. But certainly going to allow it to get right here on the offensive. There's the first Flare Blitz going down into the Incineroar. An important bit of chip damage here, especially with a follow-up of the Headlong Rush into the Incineroar, picking up that KO through the Intimidate.
Yeah, it's a very big pickup from Javier. Again, just covering pretty much every option that Lewis had to do anything with a Pokemon in that slot. We see the Earth Power come out now into the Incineroar. Should be enough to pick up the KO, and it is. But there's a Golden Go about to enter the field in a board position that Golden Go loves to see, which is a couple of Pokemon on low health. It's looking pretty tasty for a Make It Rain here. And both of the Terra types on Lewis's remaining Pokemon, if they want to try and resist that Make It Rain, are notably weak to ground type moves.
Yes.
And there is no opportunity to fake out this Ursaluna at all in this position, thanks to the Terra Ghost. Grassy Glide not going to be enough to pick it up either. It looks like this Rillaboom may just be going down immediately this turn to a Facade, even at -1. Plenty of damage to take it out from this range. Not really much Lewis can do to stop it, and then it's just a case of making sure the Golden Ghost still has enough juice in the tank to get through this Ursaluna potentially.
There's also the opportunity for this Golden Go on Javier's side to go for a nasty plot on a potential defensive play while pressuring the Ursaluna, because you know that after the last turn of Tailwind, that Ursaluna on your side of the field is not going to be able to outspeed these 2 Pokemon on the other side of the board. So there's a few different ways that both of our trainers can go, partly based on the Terastallization of choice here, but it is going to be the Terra Electric, getting this Ursaluna resistant to Make It Rain. That's why this has been so popular, where these Ursaluna have been played a little bit more defensively. Nasty plot there onto the Golden Go, and it is going to be the Facade covering the Ursaluna, knocking it out straight away. So Lewis trying to cover a Make It Rain, but unfortunately the Facade was too much. The Protect was obvious, but Javier was just covering for it because the Headlong Rush or the Wood Hammer on the Rillaboom was not enough damage to knock out the Golden Go or the Ursaluna.
I actually really like that play from Javier on reflection. You're right that going after the Ursaluna there, I think, is the correct move. Because if Ursaluna protects there, we saw that even if it Terastallizes, it's still getting KO'd there. If it protects, Rillaboom's not threatening the Golden Go that hard, and so you do still get your Nasty Plot up. So even if Tailwind goes down, you've got that +2 Make It Rain coming in next turn. Very, very well played endgame. And that is going to be Javier Señorena moving in to our asymmetrical top cut at the Latin American International Championships. What a run through Swiss he has had, making it through to the final stage of this tournament, with potentially 4 matches now between him and a possible Latin American International Championship title.
Could well be. I mean, he's done so well. And now, for all of our players that made it into asymmetrical top cut, the rest of the Swiss doesn't matter at all. We're here in the knockout rounds, and it is all about the next opponent that you have to face. 2 or 3 games of Pokemon with the opposition, and you just have to win. You just have to win from this point onwards. Sounds really easy when we say it, but let me tell you, it's a little bit more of a difficult proposition, because every single trainer in here has not only shown that they've got what it takes to make it all the way, getting into asymmetrical top cut. They've been battling it out through, 14 rounds of Swiss so far? 13 rounds of Swiss so far?
Yeah.
12 rounds of Swiss so far, I can count. But that tells you, it's a lot of rounds of Swiss that our trainers have had to play in. And so, everything is absolutely to play for everyone that's made it all the way through.
Yeah, the mental stamina needed to get to this point in the competition is just so much. It's really tough to stick it out for this long. It's stamina that we as casters don't have and don't need. We are going to take a break because we need a quick rest. But we are going to be back for the first game of the top 16 of our Latin American International Championships very, very shortly, so do not go anywhere. The action is only heating up from here on our Victory Road LAIC side stream.